Hello, my name is Kefu, and I'm working on Ceph. In my talk, I will briefly introduce Ceph, and then I will share with you guys what the problem we were seeing when profiling Ceph with flash devices. And then I will explain why we wanted to switch over to Seastar, and then I will share with you guys the problem and the experience we have when porting our software to this framework. My name is Kefu. I'm working on storage for over decades, and currently I'm working on Ceph. Before moving on, I'd like to know how many of you have been using Ceph or have evaluated Ceph or even just heard of it. Cool. I will have a very short introduction then. And as you might know, Ceph is a platform which offers services like object, block, and a file system. It's scalable from 10 to 10,000 nodes. Each node manages a whole disk or partition of a hard disk or solid state disk or NVMe devices. And it's designed with no single point of failure in mind, and it's free and open source, and it's licensed on the LGPL 2.1. By platform, I mean the service exposed by Ceph is built upon the interface exposed by Ceph cluster, named RedHat. RedHat is the abbreviation of a reliable, autonomous, distributed object store. And it's wrapped around by a library named LibRedHat. So users are allowed to build their own service or application using the very same set of API. So another interesting thing about Ceph is that Ceph features an algorithm named Crush. Just like ScyllaDB. ScyllaDB hash its rows using the partitioner into different virtual nodes. While in case of Ceph, the objects are partitioned into different placement groups by its object ID, and the different placement group are mapped to different physical nodes. This is where the crush kicks in. The crush is a physical nodes topology aware algorithm, where it is able to map different PG to different OSD. In case of two replica, the crush is able to choose two different OSD sitting in different failure domains. That's the beauty of crush. Ceph is good, but it fails to meet our expectations sometimes. This is the analysis performed by SK Telecom. They're trying to identify the latency in write request, when we serve the write request. They found that there are 7 places we're holding an exclusive lock, namely PG lock. So when the PG lock is held by a request, none of the write request is able to proceed. This is the flame diagram collected from my test on my desktop. The 3 major consumer of a CPU cycle is the thread pool serving request. Second one is the network messenger, which is responsible to read or write from or to wire. The third one is the storage backend, which is responsible to talking to the underlying disk. Let's take a closer look at the thread pool. It's apparently quite a lot of time was spent on waiting for the mutex. So, put it another way, the threads are competing with each other for CPU. This is another benchmark profiling performed by an Intel group. They are using a CPU with 88 cores and a high-end Optimum device as the underlying disk. So the bottleneck is not the block device anymore. It is the CPU. According to the MP stat, the utilized status of the CPU is not balanced. Half of them are saturated with the I/O, the computation tasks, and half of them are less utilized. So there's a lot of room we can improve in this area. So ideally, all of them should be utilized with 100% utilization. This reminds me of a picture. I believe we have seen this one in today's keynote by Glob. So in our case, the puppies are threaded in the thread pool, and the plate they are competing is the CPU and the associated resources. So we are trying to get over it and to build a better Ceph. But before we reinvent our own wheel, we still never look around for better solution in the market. So we can leverage. And the ScyllaDB caught our eyes. ScyllaDB and the Ceph reassemble each other in a lot of ways. For example, they're hosting a lot of data, and they provide the service in as a form a cluster. And the most important, they are very serious regarding to the I/O path. And more importantly, it's a high performance. It is able to address our problem. For example, the latency and I/O path. It features user-space TCP stack, and its lockless design can address the problem of our coarse-grained locks. And hopefully, Seastar can help us to tame the puppies to eat in their own plate without any computations. But the migration to Seastar is not painless because unlike ScyllaDB, Ceph is not designed from ground up with Seastar. We need to overcome our problem because we have for example, our backend storage, the latest backend storage is based upon the RocksDB. RocksDB is great and it's flexible, but its threading model is quite different from that of Seastar. For example, if we want to write a file and we want to sync it, we could send an async message to write a file, but when we want to sync it, the call is blocked. We cannot express a blocked call using Seastar. So we need to bridge the gap using one way or another. So this is where I added the API to Seastar to fill the gap. In this case, I'm trying to implement a blocking call using Seastar DMA read. The sequential file read is an API that's supposed to be implemented by the developer using RocksDB, and it's a blocking call, while the underlying do DMA read returns the Seastar future. The way we glue them together is using the alien submit to, where we send this message to a core which is responsible for the I/O, and when it returns, it signals the standard future, so we can unblock it, and the caller is not aware that its I/O is performed by another core. Apparently, we need to allocate a dedicated core for these alien calls because in Seastar, none of the calls is supposed to be blocked. And the migration to Seastar is supposed to be prioritized. In terms of Ceph, when we do backfill, which means that when a new node joins the cluster, its peer is supposed to push the information, the data to it. When it is backfilled with all the data, it's supposed to be held. It's supposed to be held. It's backfilled, and the placement group is healthy and is able to serve the read and write request. The same applies to the porting, because we are pushing the feature set from the existing Ceph and try to fill it with all the feature set we want to have. But we need to prioritize the port. The approach we choose is to port the basic I/O path so that we can have the basic idea of the benchmark, how it performed with the minimal feature. So we can have a baseline when it's just like the cook to experimenting the new sources with his existing dish. When we add new features, will be able to understand how the new feature hurts the performance or hurts the performance in a manageable way. So I guess that's all. But we have no conclusion at this moment because the port is still under progress.